to my very first screencast for our class. I'm learning just as much as you are from this, so hopefully we can do this well. This is going to be probably a little bit longer because it's my first one, so bear with me. So this is our first unit of the second semester, States of Consciousness. We're going to move pretty quickly through this unit because we're a little behind. All right, so consciousness. This isn't a switch. It's not black and white. It's not like you're awake or you're not. There are multiple stages of your consciousness. Our definition of consciousness is our awareness of ourselves and our environment. So let's look at the different stages of consciousness. We've got awake, number one, which is pretty obvious, and focused and alert. Then we've got daydreaming, and this is kind of like where you're pretty alert to most things, but you're thinking about something else while everything else is moving around you. Meditation. This is you're awake, but you're really not aware of the things around you. Hypnosis is also another level and stage that's similar to meditation. Meditation is more like you hypnotize yourself, where hypnosis is where somebody else hypnotizes you. But this is basically like you are not aware of the things going on around you. Drug-induced hallucination. This is where your reality is altered because of the use of marijuana and other hallucinogens. So, and then finally we have sleeping. By the way, isn't this baby cute? I just love this mustache. It's so funny. Okay, so have you ever been watching TV and your parents say something to you and your response is, huh? And then they have to repeat themselves and then they get mad? This happens to me all the time with Chris. I'll be focused on something and then he'll just come by and say something to me without getting my attention first. And I'm just like, huh? Or I'm annoyed because you just ruined my attention. This is what's called selective attention or cocktail party phenomenon. It's called cocktail party phenomenon because it's when you're in a crowded room of like 50 people and they're all talking at once, but you're able to drown out all of that noise and focus on just the one person across from you. So this is focusing conscious awareness on a particular thing. Research shows that your efficiency is cut in half when you try and do two things at once. So because it's harder to focus attention than it is to divide it, don't text and drive. All right. Inattentional or change blindness. This is also another thing that happens during our wakeful consciousness. So here's an experiment that was conducted. This is the researcher, and this is a guy. This is the participant, rather. The researcher asked this man for directions. So the man is giving him directions. In the middle of giving directions, these two random people walk through, or are they random? They walk through with, I don't know, this is a painting or something. I can't figure it out. This man just then continues in giving directions. But what this man does not realize is that this guy and this guy are not the same dude. Not at all. This is what they look like standing next to each other. They changed a few things so that it would be a little bit obvious, but most of them look quite similar. So inattentional or change blindness is your failure to see something because your attention is focused on something else. Now, biological clocks. We all have a circadian rhythm. It's our body's natural clock. It's associated with the Earth's rotation. So that means it's approximately 24 hours in duration until we start the clock again. And it's associated with Earth's rotation because it's associated with the amount of light that our eye receives. We have over 100 biological processes that are affected by this circadian rhythm. Excuse me. So let's look a little bit deeper into this and talk about melatonin. Our suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is located in the hypothalamus right here, regulates circadian rhythms. So without the suprachiasmatic nucleus, you would not have those 100 biological processes occurring because you wouldn't be tied to the Earth's rotation, and so therefore you wouldn't have the circadian rhythm, which could be pretty detrimental to the body. So what happens is that light comes through the eye, and it's about the amount of light, not what you're seeing. So the amount of light that comes through the eye, so basically the intensity or the brightness of the room. And that gets processed by the suprachiasmatic nucleus and sent off to, this is the PVN, but we don't need to know what that is, but it sends it off farther into the hypothalamus where the pineal gland picks up this message and decides how much melatonin to secrete. Now, the more melatonin your pineal gland secretes, the sleepier you are. So, if it's bright outside, we're going to decrease the level of melatonin. If it's dark outside, our melatonin increases. So many thanks to Edison, guys, for creating the artificial light, creating the light bulb, because now we have a continuous amount of light from the minute we wake up in the morning until the minute we go to sleep. So our body is all these more minute functions that we have that are triggered by a certain level of brightness are not happening as effectively. And also, we typically run in about a 25-hour day instead of a 24-hour day because of this delayed response because of Edison and the light bulb. So, the dawn of modern research. We didn't really know much about sleep until the electroencephalograph was developed in the 1920s, which measures brain activity. It produces an electroencephalogram. We've talked about that. You guys know all about it because of that really horrible video with the chick in her bedroom and the sock puppets. Okay, we won't go into it any farther. That was, hugely damaging, but let's move on. So, years later, we decided to use it to study sleep. So we discovered two types of sleep because of the electroencephalograph. We've got rapid eye movement, which is active sleep or paradoxical sleep. And it's called paradoxical because it's a paradox that we're sleeping, but our body movements are heightened and our brain activity is heightened. And then we have NREM, or no rapid eye movement. You're also going to see non-rapid eye movement in some places. This is quiet sleep because the physiological activities are slowing down. It has 4 stages, so let's look at those and let's look what the EEG shows us. So the first stage is stage 1. We have hallucinations, possible myoclonic jerks. It lasts just a few minutes and it produces alpha waves. When you're awake, you produce beta waves. So when you're in this first stage, you produce alpha. Remember these waves and the stages they're associated with. Stage 2, we have sleep talking is most likely to occur in the stage. We have theta waves in stage 2. Stage 3 is a transitional stage. It doesn't last very long. It's got sleep spindles and K complexes, and those are fancy EEG words. We don't need to get into too much detail on those, but just know that this is where they exist, and also know that these are delta waves. And then stage 4 is a deep sleep. This is where sleepwalking can occur, bedwetting, and night terrors, and it's also delta. So remember, beta is awake, alpha, theta, delta. Beta, alpha, theta, delta. Okay, then let's move on to our REM sleep. REM is when we have rapid brain waves. It's, once again, paradoxical sleep because the heart rate, the blood pressure, and your breathing increase. And you're also paralyzed. Yes, every time you sleep, you are physically paralyzed because your brain stem blocks the messages coming from your motor cortex. And this is intentional so as not to wake yourself up while sleeping. You dreaming and nightmare occur during this time period. Also, interestingly, REM sleep gets longer as the night goes on because you dream the most closest to waking. When you have REM deprivation, you have what's called a REM rebound, and this interferes with memory and learning. So, here's another visual representation of your sleep. I want you to note that stage 1 and stage 5 look very similar. This is because after the initial stage 1, after the initial alpha waves are produced, sending you into stage 2, you move from stage 5 back to stage 2. So you never hit stage 1 again. Stage 5, this is REM, is a lot like stage 1. And this is the percentages of the night that you get this type of sleep. Excuse me. All right, so another look at our sleep cycle. We're awake, then we move into stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Notice it takes about an hour to get to stage 4, and then we move back up, but not to 1. We go to REM sleep, okay? And then we do that again. Notice it's taking less time to get to the stage 4. And then we don't even move to stage 4. We move into REM sleep more often, and we stay there for longer. So you need at least 4 hours of sleep at night to move into that. So 4 is your minimum, guys. Really, and it's not even a good minimum. You want to hit a few cycles of REM, so 5, 6. All right, typical nightly sleep stages. We're decreasing stage 4, and REM increases at the same time. So these guys have an inverse relationship. This is also REM sleep throughout your lifespan, the amount of REM sleep you get. So this is 1 to 15 days, and then we move to months, and then we're going to move through years. Notice how as you get older, you need less and less sleep. So how much sleep's enough? Newborns need 16 to 18 hours, and they spend most of their time in REM sleep because they're learning new skills continuously, and that REM sleep is where your brain kind of restores and puts all that information in the right categories. Age 1, they're down to 13 to 14 hours a day. Adolescents, teens, that's you guys, you need 9.5 hours a day, but I really doubt you're getting it. So how many hours are you getting? Your body clocks work very differently at this age level because of all the hormones that you're producing, and it's affecting the amount of sleep that you need. So that's why when you guys get to school, it's 8 o'clock, but you're really not awake until 9. This is why. and adults need about 8 hours. I get about 7, and that's perfect for me. That's because 10% of the population requires significantly more or less sleep than that average 8 hours. All right, sleep deprivation. Fatigue happens. Eventually, it's all going to catch up to you guys. You're going to have impaired concentration. That means you can't perform or remember your tasks. So that's when you don't get enough sleep at night and you just simply can't do what I ask you to do. And sometimes you get cranky and you throw a fit at teachers. That's why, because you're exhausted. So, depressed immune system. When you don't get that REM cycle that you need, your body doesn't heal. Your body is healing during the REM cycle. This is why it's so important, and this is why it's constantly emphasized. So your immune system is going to be weak because it didn't fully repair the night before, which is why it's easier for you to get sick. And then you're going to have greater vulnerability to accidents. It says 20% of accidents are caused by a lack of sleep. They have likened to driving while sleeping to driving while drunk. That's how much sleep deprivation affects you. So don't be this guy and get some sleep. All right, factors that might affect your sleep. There's going to be those psychological factors like stress. If you're really worried about a test the next day, you're going to have a harder time sleeping. Environmental interferences include, do you sleep hot? Do you sleep cold? Do you have a light on? Do you have a TV on? Do you have some kind of noisemaker? If any of those things is disrupted from your normal routine, you're going to have a harder time sleeping. Lifestyle. You think alcohol helps you sleep because it makes you relax? Well, it produces those gamma waves in your brain that make you tired, but your body stays up all night trying to burn the alcohol off and process the alcohol, so you don't move into that REM sleep as much, and so it really affects your REM. Exercise. If you work out before bed, you're going to have an increased heart rate. It's going to be harder for you to calm down and sleep. Working in bed. This is more psychological because if you bring your stress and, your work to your bed, when you try and go back to that bed for the sleep, you're not going to be able to calm down because you've associated that space with work, with being alert and thinking. So you need to have a separate workspace from your sleep space. And then finally, sleep disorders. Insomnia, this is where you can't sleep at night, you can't fall asleep. Narcolepsy, this is when you move immediately into REM sleep without warning. These are the people that literally just pass out mid-sentence and they move immediately to REM sleep, which is why that happens. Sleep apnea, this is where you're not able to breathe while you're sleeping. So instead of moving to stage 5, people with sleep apnea move from stage 4 back to stage 1 because in stage 4 they're not breathing. And so their body kind of jolts them awake. Not so awake that they're aware of it, but back to stage 1 again. So they never hit stage 5, and that's why that's a problem. They never hit that REM. And then REM motor behavior disorder. Okay, so bring some of your sleep stories to class. Share with us some questions or stories you have about your sleep patterns, your behaviors, etc. Do you walk in your sleep? Do you talk in your sleep? Are you one of those people that when you wake up in the morning, you're like physically paralyzed for a minute or two before you can get out of bed? And is it scary? So let us know tomorrow. All right, reading. You should be up to page 191 in the textbook, and you're responsible for all those vocabulary words. In later units, I'm going to be checking vocab in different ways, but since this is our first unit back and it's really a short unit, I'm taking it easy on you guys on this one. But there will be a vocab quiz on Friday. That's it for now, guys.